This is 4 minutes for JoJo Rabbit. Ready? Okay, so you know how usually I do a cutaway to replace me saying go? Well, I mean, I think there's a pretty obvious and topical thing that I could use to do that, but I'm just gonna start. From last week's Taika Waititi project, we're going straight into another. JoJo Rabbit is a 2019 film that Taika wrote and directed. In my What We Do in the Shadows review, I mentioned Waititi's way of taking really serious, dire situations and adding a certain whimsicality and levity. And I don't think he could find a better example of that than a story about a little Nazi boy at the end of World War II. I'd love to go in depth with this, but I highly recommend that you see this for yourself, so quick overview. JoJo Rabbit is about a young boy named JoJo who is blindly and wholeheartedly devoted to the Nazi cause during their decline at the end of the war. It's about JoJo overcoming that fanaticism and becoming a more thoughtful, caring person, as well as having a bunch of great comedic moments throughout the movie, a lot of which come from Taika Waititi himself playing Adolf Hitler. I've heard this movie called a dark comedy, and I guess it's technically true based on the subject material, but I feel like it's a movie that anyone can enjoy at a certain emotional level. I mean, I feel like the people who would say, "I can't believe they made a movie like this," haven't seen a lot of dark comedies or even like Mel Brooks movies. It's like baby's first dark humor. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the movie on a deeper level now with spoilers. I think the actors and the writing of all the characters was extremely strong. The two main kids, being JoJo and the hidden Jewish girl Elsa, really do carry the movie and nail some of those comedic and dramatic moments. But there's a ton of other characters who had a deeper level of drama or just had jokes that made me crack up. I already mentioned Waititi's Hitler, which is JoJo's manifestation of how he sees Hitler in his naive way, and he's great. He has tons of amazing moments. He's used perfectly. There's also JoJo's mom, played by Scarlett Johansson, who I thought was amazing. This is the first time I was able to see her in a sillier role, and I think she did a great job. Then there's JoJo's best friend Yorkie, who has amazing lines, as well as his teacher, a disaffected army captain who is teaching the children and later has some really sweet moments. There's a ton of sweet moments in this movie in general, especially with JoJo. The movie is so emotionally fine-tuned that it can switch from comedic to suspenseful to heartwarming in seconds. In terms of the more production-y and subtextual side of things, I thought everything was really good and solid, but nothing necessarily outstanding. The look of the movie is very nice, with a lot of great locations and some fun visual gags, and really nice shots like with the campfire. There's some really cool visual setups and payoffs too, like the mom's shoes being a focal point of the movie, and then later on having JoJo run and hide in a hole in a very Rabbit-like fashion. In a similar vein, the soundtrack and score was all very nice and fit the feel, but again, nothing really stuck with me. The main thing I thought about was the fun German version of the Beatles' I Wanna Hold Your Hand, set over like girls and crowds fangirling over Hitler. I thought that was a really nice touch and kind of helped to settle in how JoJo views the Nazis. One of the best meldings of the visuals and audio cues is when JoJo first finds Elsa hiding in his house, and it's shot one for one like a horror movie. On the whole, the film does a really good job on always letting you know how JoJo is seeing the world. For me, this movie perfectly hits all the beats I'd want it to. The message is loud and clear, beautifully presented about the dangers of fanaticism, the glorification of dying for a cause, the oversimplification and denial of the truth, as well as blaming other people for your part in that truth. And weave throughout are excellent moments of humor and childish sincerity, while not making light of the real-world atrocities that occurred. I really don't have much bad to say about the movie. Like I said, it could maybe be a little bit more visually interesting, and if you don't enjoy Waititi's brand of humor, then you probably won't get a lot out of this movie. But for me, I'm convinced that Taika can make any kind of movie and I'd enjoy it. So I highly recommend that you go check this out, and I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10. And done.